right, we are here. We have landed, touchdown. It's our first day in Rio De Janeiro.
Also known as Rio De Janeiro.
In case you're wondering, Rio got its name from an expedition that was led in the Guanabara Bay in January. So, Rio meaning river, De Janeiro of January.
The river of January.
Rio's a city known for its touristic spots like the Corcovado and Pão de Açúcar, but today it's all about downtown.
Rio is very spread out and there are lots of different ways of getting around. You could take taxis, private Ubers,
buses, trains.
You could rent a bike, electric scooter.
We decided to take a train to get to the downtown area from Copacabana, and just to give you an idea of expenses, an Uber ride would have set us back about 30 reais and the ride time would have been around 40 minutes. We opted for the train. There's several different train lines here in Rio. Line 1, 2, and 4 are going to be the main ones. Most of your tourist attractions and beaches are going to be on line 1 and 4.
It happens to be a Tuesday, and today we're exploring the history and the downtown area like Raphael said. So on Tuesdays, first things first, you must go to the Museum of Tomorrow.
Normal cost is 20 reais per person, but if you're here on a Tuesday, it's free.
If you're wondering exactly what the Museum of Tomorrow is, it's a science museum, and it's basically innovation for the future.
In case you're wondering about the setup of the museum, it is extremely long and it takes you through 5 exhibits. The Cosmos, Earth, Anthropocene, Tomorrow, and Us.
So essentially what it's doing is it's taking you from the beginning of time into the future and how we have the impact to change the future.
Most of the exhibits are translated into English and Spanish, but the only one that was only in Portuguese was the first exhibit.
Which is the Cosmos, and it's a video kind of showing the Big Bang and how life came to be on Earth. So that's the general synopsis. It's very cool to watch and you'll get the general idea even if you don't understand Portuguese.
You'll want to budget at least 2 to 3 hours once you walk in the door when you come.
Overall, I would highly recommend putting this on your list when you're in Rio. Even if you're not here on a Tuesday, it's worth it.
If you're not into the whole museum thing and you're more into Rio's outdoor activities, then I'd say you can skip it.
I loved it.
There you go, house divided. Our next stop is a colorful one with a pretty cool story. It's located in the Warehouse District, which is in walking distance of the Museum of Tomorrow.
When people think of Rio, the 2016 Olympics might come to mind simply because they happened here.
When I think of Rio, I think of the awesome art scene, and right now we're standing in front of the largest graffiti mural in the world, according to the Guinness Book of World Records.
It was designed by Eduardo Cobra, who's a very well-known graffiti artist here in Brazil, and you'll actually notice his artwork if you're traveling throughout different cities. But what's really cool about this piece is that it contains 5 faces of 5 indigenous people from the 5 continents. How big exactly is this thing? It's huge. 2,600 cubic meters big. It took 2 months to complete with artists working rotating 12-hour shifts and a lot of paint.
How much paint exactly? 1,800 liters just of white paint for a base coat, 700 liters of colored paint, and more than 3,000 spray paint cans.
While you're in the downtown area, make a point to come by Presa 15, also known as Plaza 15. This entire area has a very large Portuguese influence. In fact, this is actually where the Portuguese first came here to start settlement, and this entire area, the port, is the gateway to Rio.
So this praça wasn't always called Praça 15, it used to be called Dom Pedro II Square or Praça. It changed its name eventually to Praça 15 de Novembro because on the 15th of November 1889, Brazil became a republic instead of an empire. This area went through a huge revitalization and it's basically changed its whole facade. This is the foundation or ground zero of downtown Rio De Janeiro, and this is actually where there's a port where a lot of commuters or the workforce of Rio catches the ferry to go back to Niterói. One of the real cool parts about this park is that skateboarding here used to be illegal, but after a bill was introduced and passed, it's now welcomed with open arms. Right next to Praça 15 is an archway called Arco do Teles. It was built in the 18th century to connect Praça 15 to Rua do Ouvidor. So if you walk through it, it kind of transports you in time down a cobblestone road that winds through a narrow street. And ultimately, it leads to an area where a lot of locals and tourists, but more so locals, come, chill, have happy hour, and stay socializing over live music. It's also a great place to come and grab a beer or 5, and that's exactly what we're about to do.
So a lot of people when they come to Rio, they mainly stick to Christ the Redeemer, the beaches, everything else that's on your top 10 list of things to do. But I highly recommend making a point to come downtown, check out some of the history and the influence of the Portuguese settlers coming here because this is worth it. You actually feel like when you're sitting here that you're in Europe, you're intertwined with all the Brazilian locals.
Also known as?
Also known as the Cariocas.
That was actually really good.
Thank you.
Alright, we're all wrapped up and we're heading out of the downtown area, but just for you guys to be aware, if you're planning on coming down here drinking and you're not Brazilian or you're not accustomed to the culture here, this area does get a little bit seedy after everybody goes home at around 7 to 10 p.m. So you might want to consider taking a taxi or an Uber getting out of here. Cariocas.
Cariocas?
Cariocas.
Cariocas?
Cariocas.
Cariocas?
Cariocas.
Yacas.
Cariocas.
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 Yeah, cariocas.
Okay. Great experience. Everyone's drinking beer. They'll bring you nuts on a sticky note.